Hello ladies and gentlemen, today I wanted to give you guys some tips on how to improve coming into season 10, making sure that you have your best odds to win as many games as possible and to climb to new ranks. So my first tip to you, let's just jump right into it, is to meditate. Meditation, the idea of meditation is not for you to sit in a lotus position and then to levitate and then to fly away and meet Buddha and so forth. No. The purpose of meditation is to practice your sense of focus. Being focused means that you are present in the current time, you are there, you are where the action is. You're not letting your mind flow too far away, you're not getting distracted, you're maintaining focus. And that's a very difficult thing to do. In meditation, the practice of meditation, most meditation is focused around the breathing. The reason it is focused around the breathing is because always, if you sit down and think about your breath only, you think of the current breath. Meaning, so difficult to think about the past breath. Like, oh, last week I had this breath that I took that was so insane. No, that doesn't happen. Or a future breath. Always when you focus on your breathing, it is current. It is in the present. It's about being present. A good way to do it is to, if you look at a clock, if you look at the in-game timer, you see every second ticking down, you are present in the moment. Or if you're counting in your head, 1, 2, 3, you slow down time and you're in the moment, you're present. This focus you can apply to League of Legends because most of us, for example me, I've played more than 20,000 games, maybe even more, of League of Legends. It is very natural for our mind to then make things automatic, meaning your mind preserves energy. It thinks, oh, we've done this before, this is easy, I don't need to put too much effort, and then it just turns automatic. Sometimes when you come home, you've been at work, you're home after 6, you sit down and play a couple of games, and then all of a sudden it feels like, boom, your free time before you go to bed has just disappeared. That's just because you've been doing things that are, in a sense, automatic for you. So the idea of meditation is to practice being focused. Practicing the idea of recentering your focus, because you can apply this in-game as well. Never, ever turn automatic. You want to focus, because every game of League of Legends, even though they are remotely similar, always small things that change. Small things, small details that are so important that change, that you need to make sure that you are there and present and actively thinking about it. Now you need to have an active thought process. In meditation, definitely helps this and strengthens this. Meaning, what happens next? I'm playing my lane phase. How am I supposed to play it? How am I supposed to manage it? You're always asking yourself these questions and then you're stepping back and you're always in the moment and your thoughts are centered around what you are going to do next. Another thing to add to this is you could easily add a routine and use this automatic thinking that your mind does as a strength. Meaning, before you play your solo queue matches, you always have a specific warm-up in mind. This is something that I use with my players also in DLC. I always force them to do the same warm-up before the game starts because it puts the mind in a specific place before a game starts. Association. Your mind associates things with things. So you associate this warm-up with you playing solo queue games. Warm-up could be some stretches, you could crack you can do some stretching, you can play a game where you CS to 100 with Caitlyn in mid lane, you could do some Yasuo, Keyblade movements and practice tool. You can have a warm-up routine that puts your mind in the right place. So the perfect way to start the day before you play solo queue, meditation, warm-up routine. And the big reason why, to summarize, is you want to make sure that you put thought process into what you're doing. Never turn automatic, never turn emotional. You want to be functional. Next point, sleep well and rest well. So this is, a tricky one, especially because us who play a lot of games, I didn't want to say gamers, we spend a lot of time in front of screens, so our body doesn't produce as much melatonin as we should because it's an unnatural light, it's a blue light that our mind associates with sunlight and thinking that it's time to be awake. So usually most players, they get freaky sleep schedules. An easy way to counteract this and to help with this is to use an app called Flux. It is something that you just download, it's for free. You put it on your PC and it just decreases the amount of blue light coming from your PC and it turns your screen a bit more orange. It takes getting used to. It's not something that you can use in competitive, so sometimes I shy away from using it. But just for climbing solo queue and maintaining a good sleep schedule, it can be very, very positive. Sleep is so important, and it's so common in our community that people sleep very, very poorly. People have big ego in terms of what they can and cannot do with sleeping. Oh, I don't need more than 4 hours sleep, I do good, and they're walking around like zombies. It is nonsensical to think that sleep, for some reason, you don't need it. Something that I was told that really, really blew my mind was that the only animal on the planet that deprive themselves of sleep are humans. Every other animal thinks of sleep as the most holy thing ever, right? And scientists don't fully understand sleep just yet, but there is a lot of studies that support that lack of sleep is cause for obesity. You lose cognitive function with lack of sleep. You can have a severe risk of heart disease, mental disease. There's a lot of studies that support the idea of sleep and how crazy good it is. Even though the scientists don't know everything about it, it is still very, very clear that it's a necessity. Don't have some ego when it comes to sleep. Make sure that you get the correct amount of hours of sleep. Usually in terms of sleep, what your body loves the most is routine, and maybe you could improve on your routine and you won't see the short-term benefits, but the long-term benefits will definitely be there. So sleep and eating and resting well is super, super important. Another thing that I wanted to add to this specific point is do not give into superstitions. Very common, you have guys that are like sitting and playing and they're like, oh, this is my last game, I lose it, and then you're like, yeah, I can't end on a loss, and then you continue. Just don't give in to these superstitions. Keep it simple, be honest with yourself, and keep a clean schedule. To summarize the point, just sleep well, rest well, eat well. It's super important for your performance. Next tip, probably the most important one, or the second most important one, is become a goddamn one trick, or a two trick if you really want to. The reason why it is so good to become a one trick is when you no longer have to focus and put energy into mechanics, you can begin to look at all the other variables in the game. Meaning you can look to focus on how it is to control a wave, you can focus on specific matchups, meaning how your champion interacts with other champions, and then you learn about those champions. You figure out pathways on how to win games through your champion and not being forced to put that much time and emphasis on mechanics. When you first time play a champion, usually you're sitting there, you're reading your spells, you're figuring out exactly how the feel of the champion is. Usually that is a big waste of time, and a lot of players, sometimes, you know, you play against a champion in solo queue, you're like, okay, this is OP, I'm gonna play it, you try it, you're into one solo queue game, and it's a big waste of time. So pick a one trick, stick to it, and learn the game through that one trick champion that you've chosen. If you play for long enough, you will understand every champion, how it interacts with your champion, and this is a lot of good information that will trickle down and spread throughout your game knowledge. Meaning that if you play 500 games of Rengar, all of those games are going to translate into information about other champions too. When your game knowledge is at that level, all of a sudden, you know, the best of the best can play every role because they understand it through their role. You know, Deshai, he started as a Riven one trick, and then he grew, and through Riven he understood every other champion because he understood the matchup and how they interacted with Riven, and then everything spread out, and now he is the best top laner in the world. Not saying you're gonna become the best player in the world because you're a one trick, but it's a start, right? It's a start. How you choose your one trick? Look at win ratios and make a good judgment. Don't choose the worst champion in the game. There are some champions that are better than others. The super strong assassins are really, really good. Split pushers are really good. Team fighters are really good. Poke champions. Generally champions that can do well by themselves. The majority of one tricks are playing champions like Riven, Evelynn, Rengar because they have a lot of agency. If they are behind, usually you lose the game because of them. If they're ahead, you're going to win the game because of them. So they are just playing champions that gives them as much agency as possible. But you can choose any approach. Another thing is, you know, when you start on your journey of becoming a one trick, there is a one trick for every single champion out there. There's a subreddit for every champion out there. Do your research. Research builds, research matchups. Use those resources because they've made the mistake that you are bound to do, and you can save a lot of time. Another thing is read patch notes and accept when it's time to move on. Don't play a champion that is completely useless if you want to climb to higher ranks. Sure, there should be a balance of joy and also, you know, climbing. There should be a good balance because if you're playing just the best of the best, like for example right now I think Aurelion Sol has the highest win ratio. Let's say you hate dragons, and you know, you hate Game of Thrones, you hate everything, you hate the ending so much, you don't want to look at dragons. Okay, then it's fine to take a step down, find a good balance there, and choose the right one trick and learn about it. Very important. Here on the right side, on the left side, you'll see some champion suggestions that I have of champions that can fulfill these purposes, and you can do super well with them. Next point, use your goddamn ban. So this is something that I rarely do because I'm just lazy. I just take the champion that is on the top, usually a champion that starts with the letter A. This is not the right way to do it. Ban something that inherently counters what you want to play, or something that just has a high win ratio. Maybe now in the early season it's good to ban Master Yi because Master Yi can be terrible, or Twitch, or any type of funnel. Use your best judgment, don't waste your ban. Next thing in terms of champion select is use your dodge. So dodging doesn't cost any MMR, it just costs these points that we see on the client that, you know, really don't matter in the end. MMR is what matters. If you go into a game and you know your odds of winning are relatively low, there's no point going into the game in the first place. You're going to lose MMR and you're going to lose points anyway. So dodging is very OP. If you check everyone's OP.GG and you notice that two of your players are off-roll, they're auto-filled, they're playing a champion they've never played before, they're playing a champion that maybe is more mechanically intense than they should be playing if they're first time off-rolling, not like a mall fighter, like I'm gonna first pick Fiora because this champion looks OP. You want to avoid that, right? You want to dodge, that's a big red flag. If someone is saying and exclaiming that he wants to end, that's a good sign to dodge. If there is any signs of the lobby being bad and you not having the best chances of winning, if you compare your composition to the enemy composition, dodging is a great tool. Even dodging twice is fine. Three, you lose 3 points and then 10 points, honestly, it's whatever. MMR is where it's at. The only annoying part is when you're in promos, but honestly, in promos, it's also worth to dodge for a loss. Next point, take a break. It's very common for people to play 15 games a day, 7 days a week, not take any breaks, getting frustrated, not really processing what's going on, not really allowing your mind the rest to really build up the information that you've gained throughout your games. I want you to try to even take a day-long break. You know, missing the game is super important. It will reinvigorate your will to play. It will give you excitement. If you forget the taste, you know, you might become hungry again. You're not just eating mindlessly. If you're taking a break and you don't miss the game, maybe it's a sign for you to quit, because there's a very clear sign, very clear difference between addiction and joy and what you like, right? With that being said, take breaks, try it. It will be very beneficial to you. This is something that a lot of players also do in the LEC. My next point, do not be toxic. So I'm not saying it for some moral cause, I'm saying it for your own benefit. If you're being toxic in chat, most of the time players in your team are going to react negatively, they're going to play worse, they're going to decrease the chances of you winning. The chat is a very powerful tool for you to use to increase the chances of you winning. But it's much easier to annoy teammates than it is to boost teammates. It's important that you find the right words and phrases to use to communicate to your teammates. Talk about the future and never point to a specific individual. Don't say you need to do this, you. This makes people defensive. This makes people feel attacked. They're going to wait and look for you to fuck up, and then they're going to attack you back and feel good about it. Talk about what needs to happen next without pointing any fingers. If something happened, there's no reason to bring hindsight into the game, no reason to criticize or review anyone's play. It doesn't give you anything, because most of the time players you're playing with, they are not your friends, you're not trying to improve them. Even in a professional setting, this is not something that you ever want to do. You'd never want to talk about things that have already gone past. This is for after the game. What comes next? That's the question should be on your mind. If you have the idea of what comes next, share that with your team, and then, you know, all is good. Also use the mute function if you feel yourself getting annoyed, which happens sometimes. Just mute everyone. Don't let it affect you negatively. Another thing that I recommend is use the ping system. Obviously, the ping system is fantastic. Really spam. Use it so people really recognize, you know, even be obnoxious about it is fine. On top of that, invite people to Discord. So another good way of finding ways, better ways to communicate with teammates. You can invite them to Discord, create your own Discord server. Really easy and crispy, no problem. Now for probably the most important point, review your games. So reviewing your games is super important, because between every single game, especially if you're going to become a one trick, you want to have continuity. You want to feel at the end of the day that you've become better as a player. So it could be, for example, how much CS you got, your wave control, like, oh, these waves are being lost into the tower. What did I do wrong? And then you can dig into it, you can research, find all your inefficiencies, find your bad trades, find your bad wave management, find your TPs, find your usage of summoners, be critical of yourself, and then make sticky notes for yourself of what you want to improve coming into the next game. There is always fat to trim. Always fat to trim. I just gave a couple of examples of what you can do better. It could be in terms of decisions of should you have roamed, should you not have roamed. It could be how well you CS. It could be trades in lane. It could be jungle setups. It could be how you placed your wards. Was it a useful ward? Jungle position. Where was the jungle position? Team fights, mechanics, item purchases. There's a long list of things that you can review and look and ask yourself again, did I do this properly? Another thing to take a look at when you're doing something, you can look back at it and say, ask yourself, did I have a thought process here? What was I thinking? Look at your own thought process from another perspective. Another thing to review is your mental state. Was there any point in the game where you felt frustrated, annoyed, were you distracted? These are very important points to address because you can find yourself being emotional in game, and the only way to deal with it is to take a step back and addressing it from outwards. Meaning, let's say I become angry when junglers come and gank my lane and they die. This makes me really angry. In game, I recognize I was angry. Outside of the game, I need to recognize, okay, this was the moment I got angry. How did I become angry? What was the pathway of me getting angry? Emotions are always going to happen. Pro players, they are not emotionless. They're not emotionally stone cold. It's all about how you manage your emotions and how you let them affect you. It's all about recognizing when you become upset. So for example, I got angry every time a jungler came to my lane and died. I can put this into my thought process, and the next time that happens, I'm going to stand at a crossroads. I can recognize in that moment, okay, this happens if I go down this pathway, this happens if I go down that pathway. I know in this pathway I'm going to become angry and emotional, this pathway I don't let it control me. This is not something that is going to be fixed over one time. That's why you need to be resilient with it. You need to keep addressing it, keep addressing and keep addressing it, keep addressing the point in time where you got upset or emotional. You can recognize yourself going down a bad pathway, and this is all about being present, you know? Not letting your emotions control you. Dealing with them is addressing them and then recognizing when you become emotional. If you're struggling with reviewing your games, what you can easily do is just copy ideas from better players. I mentioned before that you can copy things from One Tricks. You can also copy things from pro players. The simple thing is you copy what they're doing. You're trying to copy what they're doing. If it doesn't work, then you figure out why it doesn't work and then you make it your own. Simple. Copying pro players is something that even pro players do because they recognize the effort that some players have put into some specific champions and they can learn from the best. An example could be Jizuki with his Echo. Jizuki with his Echo was by far and beyond the best one in the LEC. What teams were doing in scrims were that they were picking Echo into us just to see how he deals with it because he understands it better than anyone else. And this is how they learned. And then they were baiting us to pick Echo because they were picking champions that are inherently bad against Echo just so Jizuki can showcase how he plays it, how he manages the waves, how he trades, how he builds, how he manages late game. Everything that he does, right? Because every time a player plays a champion, if he has 5 hours into it, every game is a showcase, it's a presentation that you can look at and learn so much from. So this is, you know, a big saving of time. Use it. No one's gonna copyright strike you. Alinity is not gonna, let's copyright strike him. PewDiePie, you know? It's not gonna happen, you know?
Seriously? He just said that? I'm gonna copy strike this guy.
No one's gonna copyright strike you. There's no copyright of ideas in League of Legends. So steal from the best. My last point is duo queue. So duo queue is fantastic. It is very OP when you duo queue with someone that is great, a jungler for example, or a support when you're playing AD carry. You can have a huge advantage over the enemy team because you have someone that you work with, you have established synergy, you have established ideas, you can coordinate together in terms of dominating the map. Very easy, doesn't need to be discussed. The other hand of it, sometimes playing duo queue with players that are just bad. This is something that you really need to stop yourself from doing. You shouldn't duo queue with someone just because you feel bad. This video is dedicated to the people that want to climb at all costs. If you are a player that, you know, would rather not hurt the feelings of your friend just because you want to play together with him and not leave him behind, then this video is not for you. And that's fine. I don't judge you. If you're playing only normal games, I don't judge you at all. Climbing is not for everyone. But if you really want to climb, you need to let go of any luggage. I had a choice back in season 1. I was shown this game from the closest friends that I have, even to this day. They showed me this game, but they didn't take the game as serious. They were playing normal games, they were fucking around, they were stealing my minions, they were following me around in the jungle, they were doing the fun shit, you know, they were having fun, which is fine, you know, no problem. But then when rank came around, they wanted to play together, but you know, I didn't want to. I wanted to move forward, I wanted to get better. And within the same season, I was playing with the best of the best, Shushe, Peke. If I stuck around and played with them, I would have probably wouldn't have succeeded the same way as I've done today. So it's all about, you know, recognizing what your goals are. If the people around you don't share those goals or can't obtain those goals in your eye, then you need to let go of them and move on. Be honest about what you want. If you now set the goal that you want to climb season 10, you want to climb as hard as possible, you want to really reach your peak and potentially become a pro player, then just follow these advices that I've been giving you. The first thing that you're gonna do when you close this video, pick a one trick. Research it as much as possible. Research all the matches, research all the builds, research what you want to do, choose a one trick and stick to it. Don't fall off the wagon, stick to it. Unless there are nerfs, read patch notes, understand when it's time to let go, but stick to as few champions as possible. If you want to play 2, 3, just stick to as little as possible. The less champions you play, the better. That's just a fact. The higher you climb in ranks, then countering begins to matter more and more. But honestly, before Master and Grandmaster, it doesn't really matter because players are not that great. They're not going to play their champions perfectly. They're not going to counter you perfectly. Your game knowledge and your information, you being comfortable, knowing how to win games, those pathways are more important. Next thing, sleep well. You did your research, sleep well, rank is starting, boom. Next day, you meditate. Find a clip, maybe I'll make a clip in the future, who knows, warm up routine, and then remind yourself of your purpose. What do you want to accomplish? You want to become better, you want to win, you want to climb, okay? Remind yourself of this purpose before every single game. Don't do anything mindlessly. You're in Champion Select, ban the right champion, dodge if you need to, and then you're in the game. Use the chat only if it's for good, meaning talk about the future, don't single anyone out. Don't be toxic, ping a lot, shot call with your pings, invite people to Discord if you want to. Game is finished, boom, you review, you take those ideas from the last game into the next game, you make a sticky notes, boom, you make sure coming into the next game that you improve on these things, CSing or whatever you figured out, you take an idea from a pro player, you take it into the next game, you play with a purpose. And then when it makes sense, take a break and then repeat all of the above. I hope this made sense. If you guys have any questions, I welcome you to join my stream. If you have any thoughts, you can join the YamatoCannon subreddit. We're also going to create a Discord very soon, but more on that when it comes out. So, thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you guys on the next one, and peace.